Just something I wanted to share that was on my heart. I talked about fear a lot before, but I kind of want to give y'all maybe 2 steps. I don't even say steps, but 2 things that's really helped me. Let's understand fear, my belief of fear. First of all, fear is there to prevent us from our lives. And let's be clear, we have a good type of fear that, that prevents us from doing injury to our life, bodily harm to ourselves, or, it prevents us telling us, don't touch that hot stove again, because you might get burnt. You will get burnt. So we have fear that helps us with our safety. But the fear that we're talking about today is the fear that prevents us from being everything that we were created to be, right? It's like the barrier that keeps us from our greatness. It's like the wall, right? That prevents us from being just who we know we can be, or doing what we know we can do. And I like to define fear by saying fear is creating a negative result from a situation you haven't experienced yet. Because when I dive deep and I think about why was I fearful to go speak, or why was I fearful to do this, or why was I fearful to do that, or why was I fearful to get into that relationship, why was I fearful to get into this partnership or whatever? It's usually because of past experience, right? We learn how to be fearful. We learn how to be fearful, usually because of past experience. Maybe something happened to us. Maybe we've seen something happen. A seed of fear was planted in our life. But it's when we create a negative result from a situation we haven't experienced yet. So what do I mean by that? It's telling yourself that you're going to fail before you ever try to succeed, right? It's telling yourself that you're going to lose before you ever try to win. It's telling yourself that you're going to be defeated before you ever step into the ring. So that's what you're doing. So just imagine if you were a boxer, right? And you're telling yourself that this guy's going to knock you out. You're telling yourself that you're going to fail. You're telling yourself that whatever story you create in your mind, you're not going to want to step into the ring. So you might say, well, Trent, what happened in your life that made you fearful? Let's talk about speaking, right? I would tell myself that people wouldn't care. I would tell myself that, I would forget what I'm going to talk about. I would tell myself all these things. And so I was afraid to do it. I didn't want to go do it. So many things. And if you think about that in your life, think about all the times you've been fearful, or you're afraid to do something that you know you should do, right? Take your life to a place that you know it has to go. But there's this thing that's preventing you from doing it. And if we dive in deep, we can use all these surface level definitions and all these surface level meanings and things like that. But if we dive in deep, it comes down as the root issue of fear. And so you might say, well, Trent, how do I get over that? Okay. And I'm sure there's a lot of steps out there to help you overcome fear. But 2 things that really help me and continue to help me when I feel fearful, because we're human beings, right? Sometimes we fearful, especially when we put ourselves in situations where something bad might have happened before, right? So number 1 is meaning, okay? Meaning, the meaning you give things, I think, is key to overcome fear. And ask yourself, why am I creating this negative result from a situation I haven't experienced yet? Is it something that happened in my past, that's making me feel like this? Is it something that I saw in somebody else's life that's making me feel like this? Is it my lack of confidence? Why am I creating this negative result from a situation I haven't experienced yet? So you want to change the meaning. I had a guy named Rock that we call the Rock. He was afraid of heights. So if you ever around me, we don't believe in surrendering to our fears. We're going to conquer. So I was like, listen, you going zip lining with us, like straight up. And he was like, no, I'm not. I was like, yes, you are. And you're going first. I was like, you with us? You want to be around us? We're going to overcome some fears today. Believe that. And so he zip lines, whatever. And I tell him, man, like, what are you thinking? Oh, I might fall. The zip line's going to break. Man, that's not going to happen. You about to have some fun out here. We about to have fun. We about to get it. And I say, just imagine when you do this, you overcome this fear of heights in this moment, you can always use this as leverage moving forward. So we changed the meaning of the situation. He did it. He had an incredible time. And so I would tell you to think about that in your situations, is change the meaning. Tell yourself, I'm not going to fail. I'm gonna succeed. And even if I don't succeed the way I want to, I'm gonna learn a lesson in the process. All right. So meaning is one. Meaning is one. And the second thing helps me is repetition. Like, you got to understand something. The best way to overcome fear is to go rep it out. Right? It's repetition. It's to do something over and over and over again. Think about the things that you were fearful to do, the things that you first tried, right? It's always a nervous energy. It's always an anxiety energy that comes when you first try something because you never did it before. You don't know what to expect. And so the more you do something, so the more I started to speak, now I'm not afraid to speak. I can speak anywhere, anytime, at any moment. And I can stand up there for 2 hours if I have to, when I used to can barely stand up there for 5 minutes. But the more I repped it, like I speak every single day, whether I'm talking to you or not, whether I'm at a stage or not, I even speak to my phone. I speak to myself at times. Like, I practice every single day. When I played sports, the reason that I became great as a receiver is because I ran routes every single day. I worked on my craft every single day. Now, you might not can do it every single day, but the more you do something, the less fearful it will become. So I used to have a fear of heights, but the more I start going on top of buildings, I'm not telling you to go do this, all right? Disclaimer, do it at your own risk. But the more I started going like to on top of mountains, and the more I started to climb certain things, and the more I jumped out of a plane, and I do all these things, heights don't scare me anymore because the more I did something. So at the end of the day, the meaning and repetition, MR, okay? MR, that's how we overcome fear. And of course, there's other strategies, there's other techniques, but these things really help my life in overcoming certain fear. And also leverage, let's add that. Like, when you do these things, you gain leverage over your life. What does that mean? Leverage means is that you give yourself an advantage mentally, right? Mentally to go do it. So now you're telling yourself, like, you're changing the story. Now you're telling yourself what it's going to be, so it pushes you. It pushes you now to go do it, right? So maybe you use a negative approach. I call it negative positive. Maybe you say, you know what? If I don't do this, for one, it's going to be contagious in my life. Like, if I surrender to this fear right now, it's going to be contagious. Things become contagious to you. Like, that's how habits are formed. Like, and I don't want a habit of fear to be formed in my life. So I'll go do it. Even if I'm scared to do it, I'll still go do it. I want to dominate that fear because I want that contagious energy that's created when we overcoming fear. I want that to spill into different areas of my life where fear comes up. I want that to be contagious with people around me. You know what I'm saying? Period. So gain leverage over your life. Gain leverage over your life by changing that meaning, by having that repetition. And that will help your life. And like I said, this can apply to relationships. Some of us, we don't want to get into a new relationship because we're fearful because of our last relationships that happened. Like, that's the past, man. Like, this is something fresh. It's a new beginning. I'm not guaranteeing that the relationship will be perfect, but you cannot allow what happened to you in your past. You cannot allow what you think could happen to you in your future prevent you from progressing your life. Because at the end of the day, if you're doing nothing in your life, you're not making any changes in your life, you're going to live a miserable life. Let's just be honest. Let's just keep it straight up. And so go attack some fears. Like, go do something this week that you've been afraid to do. And like I said, there's so many levels to that. It don't have to be something crazy like zip lining or jumping out of a plane, but maybe it's something that you've been afraid to do. Maybe you've been afraid to go to the gym, right? Because maybe you have the fear of being judged by people when you go there. Go to the gym. I'm actually going to a running class. I'm pretty fearful about it because it's a group of runners. And I'm a sprinter. I can hold my own when it comes to that. But when it comes to jogging for long distances, man, I'm fearful of it. And why have I been fearful? Because what do you think I'm telling myself? Man, I ain't going to keep up with them. I'm going to be tired, man. They're going to kick my butt. And I'm already gaining leverage over my life. I realized the meaning that I was creating in that. And I said, for one, I'm going regardless. I'm showing up. So let me change the meaning. It's my own race. And who knows? I might be the best one out there. If I'm not, whatever, it's my own race. I'm getting better today. That's all that matters. And so I would challenge you to go do something. Go find something that you've been fearful to do and go conquer it and do it and show yourself that fear is just an imaginary thing. Fear is not reality, man. Fear is not reality, period. And go conquer it, go dominate it. Like, go conquer it and go dominate it and let that be contagious. Like, that's how confidence is built. Confidence is built by you going attacking fear. Like, confidence is built by the repetition. It's like, I know like in basketball, I'll just use my life for example. Like even in high school, in basketball, like I was comfortable taking the last shot because I practiced it so many times. Like I was comfortable doing it. I was comfortable with the ball in my hand. I was comfortable with the coach calling me my number in football. Like I was comfortable. Like give me the ball because I've done it so much, you know what I'm saying? Because I put myself in that position so much. I knew what the result was going to be before I ever experienced the situation. Like I told myself it was what it was going to be. And it built that confidence. And when you overcome fears in your life, it doesn't just directly affect the situation that you're conquering through, but it affects future situations in your life, right? It builds confidence in your life and you walk with more confidence. You operate with more confidence. And that's a powerful way to live life. Confidence is everything. I didn't say cockiness, but confidence is everything. And that is controlled by you. Can't nobody steal your confidence without your permission. Can't nothing take your confidence without your permission. So there you have it. Meaning, repetition, and those things will help you gain leverage over your life and make you confident, all right? Like I said, maybe you can't conquer the big fear, but maybe you can conquer something that you kind of been afraid to do. Maybe it's public speaking, which is the number one fear in the world. Maybe, like I said, maybe it's a fitness journey. Maybe it's a spiritual journey. Maybe it's going on a date because you're so fearful that there's nobody good in the world because of your past. Maybe it's going on a date with somebody. 85% of our fears never become reality. That's true, man. Like our worries never really happen. For the most part, 85%, I would definitely say, I would even say probably 95%. Like our worries, our doubts, all that negative energy that we experience and we have, those things never ever happen. And we sit there and we worry about it. We sit there and we stress about it. And then stress overtakes our lives and we just live in stress. We breathe stress. We become stress. And so you got to let go of those things, man. And that's why I do certain things. Like people ask, like, why are you running a marathon? Or why are you doing this? Or why do you do that? Or why do you do stuff like crazy stuff? People call it crazy stuff. And I tell them because I'm always working on my mental. Always. Like the physical is just the byproduct. You know what I'm saying? But I'm always working on my mental. I'm always working on my spiritual. Because I know these things become very contagious. I know how easy it is for habits to be formed. Positive is a little bit harder to form positive habits because it takes a while. But even in negative habits, I know negative habits in certain areas of your life can be contagious to other areas of your life. And then you wake up one day and you're something that you don't want to be. Or you have a mindset, you say, where did this come from? How was this mindset formed? It's the small things that we ignore or we don't value in our lives. The small fears, right? The saying no to things you should say yes to, right? The opportunities you should say yes to. And I want you to be have discernment about certain opportunities. I'm not telling you to say yes to every opportunity for your life because some opportunities aren't meant for your life. But there's certain things that you know for a fact is for you. You just talk yourself out of it. You just talk yourself out of it because you're afraid of failing. You're afraid of being embarrassed. You're afraid of being judged. Like those are the three things that keep people. Like I want y'all to understand, like the fear is a word, right? Fear is like, I don't know. Fear is like the tree or the branches or the leaves, whatever. But there's root things, right? That's deeper than like the fear of what? And if you really evaluate your life and you really take time to understand how your life is operated, how you operate life, how you think, why you do certain things, like I always tell you, ask yourself the question, why? That's something I always ask myself, why am I afraid to do this? And I evaluate it, man. Like, if you ain't going, like, what's crazy to me is that we will spend time, like, evaluating other people's lives. We will spend time like doing things that have no benefit to our lives. We worry about people in sports. We do all these evaluations with everybody else. We know everybody else's stats. We know what everybody else is doing. But when it comes to our own lives, we don't spend no time evaluating ourselves. That makes no absolute sense to me at all. At all. And so take time to evaluate your life. Take time to understand your habits. Take time to understand why you have certain routines. Take time to understand, why you think the way you think. And a lot of times with fear, it's the fear of those three things. Like, we're so afraid to be embarrassed. So we'll be like, well, if I mess up, then I'm not going to look perfect. I'm not going to be perfect. And people are going to have a certain way about me, or I feel a certain type of way about me. So I'm just not going to do it at all. I'm just not going to do it at all. Or if I pursue another relationship, and I'm not telling you guys to just go pursue relationships if you haven't healed yet, because healing is key before you ever step into a new relationship. But for some of us out there, we've had failed relationships and we're so afraid. Like, it might be a person that we believe is great, right? They have the standards, they have, everything that we believe that would be good for our lives. But we never take that a step further because we're afraid, like, what if this fails? And now I'm looking like, I'm looking like a person that has another relationship failed. And so I'd rather just not pursue anything. I'd rather keep my heart closed and cold than become a failure again, because I'm so afraid of what people think, man. Like, forget living in that prison. Like, you got to get out that mindset. Forget what people think. Like, and I know it's easier said than done, but who cares? Who cares? It's your life. It's your life at the end of the day. And we keep ourselves in that prison because of judgment, the fear of being judged, because the fear of failure. We keep ourselves in this prison. We keep ourselves in a place mentally, spiritually, physically that we know we're no longer supposed to be at. And we literally choose misery. You got a choice. We choose misery. We choose stress. We choose all these things. We choose it. Like I said, maybe where you're at isn't your fault, but where you're choosing to stay at is. And so, I know I'm kind of going all over the place right now, but just to bring it back around, man, like, don't allow fear to control you. Like, don't allow the fear to control you. Because I kind of want you to think a little bit deeper than just the word fear. Like, sometimes we hear fear and think it's just like, well, I don't want to speak. Okay, cool. But, like, why is that? Why don't you want to speak? Right? I'm not saying everybody has a speaker. I'm just using an example. Why don't you want to speak? And that's what, when I talk to people who I don't like to say the word mentor, because I don't feel like I mentor people. When we have conversations, because I feel like I learn from them, they learn from me. So it's just a conversation. And when I talk to people, I say, why are you afraid to speak? And then they usually say, the fear of being judged or whatever. And I say, well, where does that come from? Why? Where does that come from? Why is it there? And I think if you keep diving deep, you'll realize, like, where these things come from, man. And these seeds, these roots are in our lives. I actually just pulled up some weeds in my garden today. And, there was actually some deep roots. And I had to pull it up because when we keep these weeds in our gardens of our life, man, like, it can make our garden look kind of trashy. Like, my garden was looking kind of rough out there, and I had some beautiful flowers out there. But I had to dig up those weeds and get to the roots and really pull those things out, because if I didn't get to the roots, guess what? Those weeds would grow back again. And it's the same thing in your life. You got to get down to these root issues of why you operate and think the way you think, why you do what you do, why do you create certain outcomes, right, from situations you haven't even experienced yet. Where does that mindset come from? And you have to live in a progressive, a powerful mindset as much as you can. Like, create a power perspective. And you've heard me talk about this millions of times, but it's true. You got to create a power perspective. You have to, hold on, I'm trying to see what somebody wrote. You have to create this power perspective. And when you understand you're in control of that, and I know I keep saying I get it, because I know what a lot of you are thinking. Trust me, I know it. I know a lot of you are thinking. It's like, I try, but you don't understand what's going on in my life. You don't understand what's happening, what happened. And I don't have to understand it, okay? Because I know right now, no matter what happened to you, no matter what has happened to you, it's happened. Right? And I understand we got to go through periods of rehab, and we got to go through periods of repair, and we got to go through times of healing, but it's happened. And the only way it will continue to happen, right? The only way it continue to have a residual effect in your life is if we keep surrendering to that. If we keep surrendering to the excuse that this has happened to us, right? Not not taking anything away from what's happened, not taking the power from what's happened, because a lot of things are devastating. But I want you to understand, even in things that break us, we still have the opportunity to rebuild. We still have the opportunity to construct again. We still have the opportunity to rise back up, even if we fail, even if something has made us fall in our lives. And so that's what I want to get through to you guys, man. I know we start off with fear, but this is the type of process that you have to start thinking about. Evaluate your life. It's time to reconstruct the way we think. And one of the easiest ways to do that is changing the meanings that we give things, right? Changing the meanings that we give things. And it's not easy. It's very hard to do, but it's possible to do. And if you're like me, all I need is possibility, baby. If I got that possibility, I know I can do it. If I can see it, I know I can be it, right? If I can dream it, I believe I can fly, So that's my mindset in life. And that's how I try to operate life and progress in life. Like I said, I'm not saying these things aren't hard. Like, don't take that from this message. Life is hard. Losses are hard. If you know my story, I've been through some things in my life. Probably not as much as you guys have. I get it. We all have different struggles, and different struggles affect us all differently. But I know it's hard. But what's harder is staying there. Like, that's the leverage that I use in my life, right? When I go through hard times, and I've realized this when I started rehab time, like, losing football or losing my identity, losing my money, all of that type of stuff was hard. Yes, it was hard. But you know what was harder? Staying there. And so the choice that I made, I said, I would rather choose temporary pain. I would rather choose being uncomfortable temporary. Because as I progress, I know a change is going to happen as long as I keep progressing. Then I would rather choose to be uncomfortable temporary than in a comfortable pain permanent. And so I had to find out ways to heal. Okay, how can I heal? Who can I get around? How can I change my environment? What knowledge am I putting in my life? Okay, who can pray for me? Who can speak into my life? What can I get around? So I was hungry for that change. You got to be hungry. And it's certain things in our life that no matter how positive we are, no matter how much we change, that void will still be there. I think, the loss of a family member, the loss of a friend, it's a void that can never be filled, when you lose someone. But you still can live your life when you change your mindset towards the situation. Like I said, the reason I started rehab time, one of the reasons was I lost one of my best friends to suicide. Do I still miss him? Yeah. But I know that he inspired me to do what I do today. So even when I'm doing this, he inspired me to do it. I feel a piece of him inside of me. You know what I'm saying? Like, every time I come out and do these things. And so he stays alive through me. And see, that's what I'm talking about. I'm not going to surrender to that, like, oh, he's gone and my life, like, I'm never going to talk to him again and XYZ. Same thing with my grandmother, my grandfathers. Like, same thing. I say, you know what? No, I'm not going to stay there. I'm going to celebrate their life. I mourn their life. I'm going to celebrate their life, and I'm going to keep them alive through me. Some way, somehow. Keep them alive through me. Who I become, my grandparents have molded that, because they molded my parents. They babysat me. Everything about them, the things that they taught me about life. My grandmother, before she passed away to cancer, I sat down with her and I asked her, like, what mattered most about life? And she just said she just wished she had more time to connect with the people she loved. And you hear me talk about that message a lot, what matters most, because that changed my mindset to things like what really matters in life. And so every time I share that message, she inspired that message. You know what I'm saying? So she still lives on through me. She still lives on through her kids and her grandkids and all these things. And so that's what I mean, man, about not surrendering to the situation. And it doesn't mean that you excuse the pain from the situation. No, it doesn't mean that you lessen the pain, that you have less sympathy. No, I have plenty of sympathy, empathy for a lot of you guys. But I don't want you to stay there and think that that's it. You still have more life to live. And to the people that lost someone, realize they wouldn't want you to live like that. Think about it. You're not doing them justice. Like, if I was to leave this earth and my kids or my wife or my friends or my brothers, my mom and dad, like became depressed, right? And just say like, I'm able to see this, like, I don't know, whatever, but just say I'm able to feel this and see what's going on. Like, I would be hurt. I would be hurt that my death caused them to live a miserable life, caused them to live depressed. I would be hurt even more. But if I saw them, keep me alive, if I saw them celebrate my life, I would be like, man, like, that's awesome. That's awesome that they could use my life as motivation. They can use something as encouragement to give to other people. They can start a foundation because of my life, like so many other people benefited. You see it all the time. I think I saw a mother that lost a kid to, I don't know if it was cancer. I mean, we see these all the time. And they start foundations because of it. Even though the loss of the kid or whatever, the person hurts and it's going to hurt forever. But to see so many people get help, to be so many people be inspired by this situation is truly beautiful. It's truly incredible. But that's just the way I think about life, man. Like, I'm not going to surrender to the situation. I'm not going to surrender to the pain. I'm going to find the best way to take from the situation. And a quote that I like to say all the time is that when you can't change the situation, because there's certain situations you cannot change. That's just facts, right? Maybe it's something that's happened in the past you can't change. Maybe it's something that's going on in your life that you can't change. When you can't change the situation, you can still change your mindset towards the situation, right? And that's what life is about. Hopefully somebody in here got encouragement today. Hopefully somebody in here is going to conquer their fears because of this. Hopefully somebody in here is going to, instead of mourning so much, they're going to celebrate now. Hopefully somebody in here is not going to surrender to their past anymore, to their pain anymore. Hopefully somebody here now is going to make their past and pain surrender to them. Hopefully they're going to do something with their life. Hopefully somebody in here is going to make the decision and say, you know what, I'm going to go through a temporary uncomfortable pain. I'm going to go through a period that sucks. I'm going to go through some seasons that sucks when I make this change. But you know what? It's going to be all worth it because I know growth. I know perseverance. I know resilience. I know confidence. I know faith is going to be built out of this journey. Hopefully somebody will do that. It's like the journey of working out, period. When you start working out, it sucks. Trust me, I'm at that period now at the beginning where it sucks. It's uncomfortable. I don't like it. I ask myself every day, why am I doing this marathon? Why? But every single day I come back, it's a little bit more confidence. I find a little bit more growth in it. It becomes a little bit easier. But it's uncomfortable now. It's uncomfortable. But I know outside your comfort zone is where change takes place. So I am good in positive situations to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, if that makes any sense. Yeah, and rejection, man. But the word rejection, what is rejection, right? Like, let's think about it. I don't know the definition of it. Of course, we know what it means, right? It means that you said no, or maybe, you didn't get a job, or you got cut from a team, whatever it may be. But how I think about rejection, and this is how I think about it, and this is with my faith, with my belief in God. This is a quote that I always say, and I always remind myself every time I'm rejected. Man's rejection is God's protection, right? Man's rejection is God's protection. And I always think, if I could see the future of my life, right, I would understand that that rejection was necessary to protect my life. One of my prayers that I pray is the prayer for protection. That's my main prayer that I pray. And I understand that the world's going to have to say no. I understand that there's going to be opportunities that have to say no. I understand that there's going to be so many scenarios in my life that have to produce the word no, because the protection in my life, the protection that I want for my family's lives is necessary. And I always tell myself that. So rejection isn't a bad thing. I always feel like rejection is protecting you, is strengthening you. Sometimes it takes rejection in order to build something inside of you, right? If it wasn't for the rejection of the NFL to my life, I wouldn't have never walked into the purpose for my life, the avenue for the purpose to live my life. Understand that. So that rejection was a blessing. That rejection was a blessing. That rejection was needed. So I don't take it personal when people reject me. I don't take it personal when the word no happens. Just no. Okay, cool. I understand that it wasn't meant for my life at this moment, or it might not be meant for my life ever. But I'm not going to sit there and let this make me less confident about myself. I understand that certain doors have to close so you can go to the right door to open that door. Because if you open the first door, you might not ever get to the door that's meant for your life, right? Certain detours have to happen so you can get on the right path for your life. Because if every path was open and you chose the path that you wanted, maybe that path would have led you to a place of destruction. So maybe that acceptance was really destroying your life. And maybe that rejection was really protecting your life. That's something to think about, because I know that I had a lot of exception in my life that destroyed my life at a point. So think about that, all right? Rejection isn't always a bad thing. But like I said, that's perspective. And that's something that you got to control. Man, like, y'all got to stop thinking so much, man. You got to stop, like, taking certain things so personal so much. Like, all right, cool. Rejection, you rejected me? All right, cool. Only thing you can say is no. You know, it's like I tell that to teenagers a lot. You know, I'll be like, only thing she can say, like, you can ask her out, only thing she can say is no. Okay, cool. You got it over with. No, she don't like you. All right, cool. Move on with your life, right? Learn how to be rejected early. Learn the word no, right? No. Let the word no don't have so much power in your life, right? Let the word no, and unless in certain situations now. Now, when somebody tells you no, then it should have some power in your life if it's certain situations. Y'all know what I'm talking about. So I want to be clear with that. Especially when you're trying to force yourself upon somebody, or, you know, trying to take something from somebody, that no should mean a lot of power to you. But as far as like things like you're trying to, you know, dreams and visions, all XYZ, like, who cares, man? Just keep pushing, keep living, keep progressing, keep smiling, stop stressing. And that's what life is about. And just think, if I would have surrendered to my fear, speaking in front of people or all these things, I would have never shared my story, or never, if I wouldn't have the fear of just trying to change my life, like, if I would have never overcame that fear, because that's scary, man. Change is scary. I understand that. Change is very fearful, because change, you lose a lot of things with change. A lot of things happen when change takes place, you know. A lot of negativity happens when positive things happen in your life also. But I just think about, like, if I would have never found the strength and the courage to overcome that. And you got to realize this fact. Fear is not from God, man. God doesn't give us a spirit of fear. He doesn't do that. So where is fear coming from? You know, he doesn't give us that spirit of fear. That's something to think about. And when you move forward with your life, and I've talked about this a lot too, but I always say, when you show somebody that you can live your life without them, that's when they will always try to control you and bring you back. I don't want to get too in depth with this, because I don't want to take away from the topic of fear. But I tell people that all the time. It's like, as long as somebody knows that they can control you, they'll treat you how they want to treat you. But as soon as you show them that you're happier, well, really yourself, because really showing them shouldn't matter. But as soon as you show yourself that you're happier, that you can survive without your life, that you can operate your life without them, that's when people will try to control you again, because they realize that they've lost the power in your life. See, some people don't come in your life to love you. They come in your life to use you. Some people don't come in your life to love you. They come in your life to control you. Some people have controlling issues. Controlling makes somebody feel powerful. Controlling makes somebody feel significant at times with people. And so when they can feel significant, when they can feel powerful, they will try to control you. And so when they feel like they lose control over you, that's when they'll do anything to bring you back. But think about that, man. When you're trying to move on with your life from toxic people, realize that a lot of people will try to do that. They'll try to bring you back, because some people are addicted to controlling people. It makes them feel alive, right? It makes them feel significant. It makes them feel powerful. And they want to control any and everything they can control. You see that a lot. You see that a lot with bosses. You see that a lot with just people in general. And it's sad, man. Like, the thirst for significance is real these days. The thirst for power is real these days with people. And so you have to think about that as you move. The only way you're going to change fear is if you pray for it. For one, pray that God give you the strength. I do that before I do anything. And then go do it. That's the only way you're going to do it. The only way to get to certain things and get through certain things is you have to go grow through certain things. You have to. There's like no easy magical formula that's going to make that erase out your life. And like I said, the more you do it, the more you'll realize, like, every time fear comes up, fear will lose power over your life, right? It won't be as strong anymore. Have you ever, like, maybe you never did it, but have you ever seen somebody like there's ways to get into the water, right? Some people just go jump in, like, I'm jumping in. But sometimes when you test the water, right, and you realize how cold it is or whatever like that, or like you're about to jump off a diving board, and the more you go to the edge and stop, it's like it builds like the wall even stronger. And so now you have to find like more confidence and more meaning to like overcome this wall. But if you just go out there and just do it, just jump in, full body, just go do it. Don't even test it. Just go do it. Don't even think about it. It's a lot easier to do. But the more you come to the edge and stop, right, the harder it is to actually take the action to go do it. And so you can use that same application to your life. Like, the more you finally find the guts to do it, but you stop, it's going to be hard to actually do it. So just go jump in. Full body, baby. Don't test the waters. Just go jump. A situation happened to me. I'm not going to get into depth. I'm not going to get in depth with it, the situation, but it's somebody I trusted, and they basically took advantage of me. Took advantage of my trust, business-wise, stole some money, out the country. I'm not going to get too in depth, but if you kind of realize, if I connected with somebody out the country recently, you can, add two and two together. Situation happened, and, it's a person like, and I've dealt with this plenty of times in my life, not the money situation. It's not about the money. It's just about like, dang, like, you're supposed to be like a friend. You're supposed to be like my boy. You're supposed to be like whatever, a family almost. And I've had this happen to me multiple times. And it's like, even not in that situation, but like when you're there for people and then when you need them to be there for you. This is just the reality of life. Loyalty is rare. It's crazy how you can be there for everybody, but when you need somebody, nobody seems to be there. Fake people don't surprise me anymore. Loyal people do. It's like, no matter how much you were there for their struggle, when you go through yours, don't be surprised when they forget about you. But that's life. No matter how good you are to them, doesn't mean they're going to treat you the same. No matter how much they mean to you, doesn't mean they're going to value you the same. It's always the ones that said they would never change that end up being the main ones that change. They go from being real to acting strange. They go from giving support to giving pain. It's insane how you can do so much for a person and yet they still feel comfortable talking down on your name. Like you wasn't the one that helped them get it right. Like you wasn't the one that did so much for their life. But people tend to forget about the favors when they become haters. And just like that, they'll switch up on you overnight. They'll go from talking to you to talking about you. They'll go from I got you to I forgot you. They'll preach that they down for life. But when you get down on life, that's when you will see how they really feel about you. Straight up. With no hesitation, they'll try to ruin your reputation by creating false accusations just to benefit their situation. Y'all's private conversations become public information. It's amazing. When you're dealing with real and fake, the word loyalty always seems to get lost in translation. As you can see, sometimes it's the ones you cut for that turn out to be cutthroat. And sometimes it's the ones you think you see eye to eye with turn out to be the ones you got to watch the most. Trust me, just because they close doesn't mean they're going to be close forever. They say they for you, but never show up for you. That's because as long as they ain't doing good, they don't want you to do better. So if you don't want what's best for me, then don't stand next to me. I don't need your negative energy. And I find it funny, just to get back at you, your old friends will become new friends to your old enemies. So understand, when loyalty isn't returned, that bridge has to be burned. Don't let it take someone showing you multiple times they can care less about you for you to finally learn. So if you always got to question their loyalty, then maybe it's time for this chapter to be closed. And always remember this fact about life. Someone's loyalty is something that you just can't control. Straight up. I always try to speak I always try to speak for people, that's going through that type of stuff. I feel like that's like what I was born to do. You know what I'm saying? Like, whether it be friends, whether it be loyalty, like these real situations in life that happen. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not always the success guy and talk about all of that stuff. I just want to speak that truth and that real and that raw to you guys, because it's real situations, man. And like this one, I'm really proud of this spoken word. When I mean someone's loyalty you can't control, because that came from a place of everybody always hitting me up saying, I changed this, I did this, I bought them this. And they think that's going to make someone be loyal to them even more. They're just loyal to what you're giving them. They're not loyal to who you are. They're loyal to what you can do for them, not loyal to who you are. And so you can't control someone's loyalty. Like, realize that, like, either they are or they aren't. It's just facts. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can change a lot of stuff. You can buy people stuff. You can change the way you look, all these things. But if someone just isn't loyal, they're just not loyal no matter what you do for them. Because once you stop doing for them, as I said in Friends, once the benefit leaves, that's when the loyalty stops. And that's just real. It's just real. So this is what this was about. It was for the people out there that's like, I've done so much for people, but it never came back in return. And I just wanted to paint that picture and let you know at the end of the day, man, someone's loyalty is something that you just can't control. So that's what it is. The line I really liked in there was, your old friends will become new friends to your old enemies. And I know we shouldn't like have enemies and stuff like that. Like, I feel like I don't have enemies as far as like me hating someone. But there's people who don't like you. You know what I'm saying? And so like that line, when I thought about that, I was like, ooh, that's a real line, because people will do that to you. And some people take it personal. Like, don't take it personal. Like, some people will get back at you. Like, you even see, like, what I mean by that, like, you will see somebody, like, I've seen people in relationships, like, they'll go start dating somebody that the person hated just to get back at them. Our friends, they'll go befriend the people that you don't mess with, that you have problems with, just to get back at you, just to make you mad. And so that's why I put that line in there. I want to tell you, like, don't get discouraged with that. Like, if somebody doing all that just to get back at you, it just shows how much you truly mean to them at the end of the day. And this is the thing, like, nobody owes us loyalty, period. And when it comes to expectations, like I said, there's certain things, I don't know if you missed this when I talked about it last time, there's certain things in life when it comes to friendships and relationships, period, that doesn't have to be explained, because it's understood, right? If we have a connection in a friendship, whatever, treating somebody good, whatever, or treating somebody right, that's a standard. I feel like there's a difference between standards and expectations, right? And so if you're in my life, there's standards. There's standards that don't have to be explained at all. And so at the end of the day, just like you don't owe me loyalty, you don't. But at the end of the day, I don't owe a spot to you staying in my life if you can't do the simple things. And I'm not talking about things that you do for me. I don't need nobody to do nothing for me as far as with that. But just like bringing peace instead of problems, right? Just doing what's right. And so I don't think that's necessarily an expectation. That's just the reality, period. When I say you shouldn't have expectations for people in relationships and stuff like that, I was clear. I said, now, there's certain things in relationships that don't have to be explained. They don't. Like, that's not an expectation. That's a fact. Like, that's a reality. Like, if this is not happening, then, or disrespect is happening, if it's abuse or anything like that, then the relationship is not going to be there no more. The friendship's not going to be there no more. So I don't even have to explain those things. Those are standards. Those are things that anybody should know if you're getting into a relationship or a friendship or a partnership or a businessship with anybody. Like, say you're in a partnership with business, like, you might say, well, it's an expectation not to expect them to steal from you or take from you. Nah, it's a reality, period. It's a reality. Like, if I'm in business with you, that don't even have to be talked about, because morally, integrity, like, that don't have to be explained. That's already understood. You know what I'm saying? So other expectations, unfair expectations, is what I was really talking about in that video. Unfair expectations, me expecting you to do certain things. So if you take that same partnership and I'm expecting you to do something I've never explained to you, I'm expecting you to, to show up at the job every single day at this time, but it's never been explained to you or anything like that, then that's an unfair expectation, right? Or maybe expecting you to go hard for the business like I'm going hard for it. That's an unfair expectation. But when it comes to like the standards of things, that's totally different. So my video was basically about unfair expectations, unspoken expectations with people, and not having those. But there are, and I believe I said that in the video, there are expectations you should have if you want to use that word, right? Like, I expect you not to steal from me, or you can expect to be fired, or I expect you to whatever, there's consequences. So yeah, that's what I meant. Hope I didn't confuse you guys, but I think you guys can kind of understand that. What if people think your standards are too high? People are going to think that, man. And you have to, like I said, you have to evaluate that situation, right? Like, you have to evaluate it. And sometimes, I always say this, don't expect, because people ask, like, how do I know my standards are too high? I feel like this, like, don't expect a perfection that you can't give, right? Don't be double standard. So if you can't do it, don't expect somebody else to do it. That's when I feel like standards are too high, right? But if you're doing it, if you're living it, breathing it, being it, then I don't feel like your standards are too high. And then you have to know the person. Some people want you to lower your standards so they can take advantage of you. Not everybody, but some people do that, right? So I always say, make people meet them at your level. So if I'm around somebody who has high standards, like stuff that I'm not doing, and that's going to inspire me, I'm not going to try to make that person become less to meet me at my level. I'm going to raise my standards to meet them at their level, because they're somewhere where I want to be, hopefully. Like, especially if it's healthy, positive standards. You know what I'm saying? So like, I'm going to raise my standards to meet them at their level. And so you have to be honest with yourself. Are you expecting somebody to do for you, what you won't do for yourself? Stuff like that. Are you expecting somebody to have standards that you ain't even living to? Now, I think that's when it's not right. But yeah, a lot of people are going to say your standards are too high. When it comes to relationships now, there's so much I can talk about. Like I said, I don't want to get confused in here, but there's so many levels to this that I could talk about. That's why you always have to keep things in context. But even with relationships, like, I feel like sometimes we have too high of standards. And what I mean by that is that what I just said earlier about, like, not living up to what we're expecting, but we have a list. A lot of times we have a list of, what somebody has to be, what they look like, how much money they make, and they have to meet all these requirements of the list. If they don't meet the requirements of the list, then they're not for us. And so a lot of us, though, we have these materialistic, we have these, things that really don't matter on the list, like how tall somebody is. They have to be 6 foot. They have to X, Y, Z. Now, there are things you shouldn't compromise. I definitely agree. But there are things that maybe you're going overboard on your list, and that's keeping you lonely. That's just another option. But that's just my suggestions. Live your life. Do I think it's unfair is wanting your husband to spend more time with you and your kids considered an unfair expectation? No, I feel like being there for your family, like I said, that should be a standard. That should be something that should be understood when you guys come together as one. But on the flip side, it's like, it's hard, right? That's a fine line, because it's like, if they spend more time with the family, are you okay with maybe, the financial part suffering a little bit? I don't know your situation. Maybe it won't suffer at all. Are you okay with that? Because I find that a big conflict in relationships is like, the man or the woman, it just depends on who's the breadwinner in the house. But like, the man is saying, like, I'm doing all these things for you guys. Like, I'm working hard to provide for you, to give you more security, to give you, the things that you want, X, Y, Z. And then you have the woman that says, or the man that says, you're not spending time with us. I want you to be here. I want you to spend more time with us. And so you both are operating out of good intentions. If this is the case, you both are operating out of good intentions. That's when conversation has to happen. That's when dialogue has to happen. That's when you have to understand each other's worlds more. And that's when, compromise. And we talked about that word the other day. We can talk about that another time, but compromise. I a little bit. And that's when I asked the other day, is compromise and selfish, like expecting someone to compromise? And that's a question that we had. And that's something we can talk about on another live. But, I just use that word because we understand the context of it, not in a selfish way. But so like with my situation, like I understand, like I said, you have to know the situation. Some people can't take off work less, right? Some people, it's just not possible. So, but some people can. Some people can lessen the overtime hours, right? So you can't, I'll just put it like this, you can't tell them to take less work off if you're going to complain about the finances. Like that just doesn't work. So if you're okay with losing certain things, then fine. And then, so in my situation, I talked to my wife. I said, you know what, I'm just going to go hard. And I sacrificed a lot of family time to go, try to heal the world pretty much. And but they understood it. We had a conversation about it. I understand my importance. Like, I understand what's important to me. I want to have a roof over my head, yes, and over my family's head. But I also want to make sure that I'm here, that they feel my love, that they feel my presence. That's important to me as a man. Like, I don't want to get 70 years old and realize I worked my life away and I don't even know my children. I don't even have a real connection with my children, So, like I said, there's so many elements to that. It depends on the situation of the person. I can't just give a one answer because everybody's situation is different. Some people can sacrifice more. Some people can't, So it's about working together. It's about understanding, communicating, connecting, and working together. But as a man, for me, I've always said this, and you heard me say it 1,000 times. I don't want to be successful to the world. And what I mean by that, I don't want to have the title. I don't want to have the money. I don't want to have all the followers and all these things that people love. And people are, our Trent is this, and I love Trent, and, this and this, and they're, whatever, inspired. I'm inspired by Trent, and I'm motivated by him. Like, I love what he's doing. But on the flip side, I'm unsuccessful to my world, where my kids and my family are saying, I'm not motivated by my father. He's never here. He's always choosing people over us. You know what I'm saying? So for me, being successful to the world holds no value in my life at all. Being successful to my world, my family, holds all the value to me. So for me, it starts here. And I work out. So I'm willing to sacrifice finances. I'm willing to sacrifice recognition. I'm willing to sacrifice all of these things because I think about the big picture of my life. I think about the big picture. You can always make more money some way or another. You can always create something, for the most part. But you can't create more time, right? You can't get today back. You have one chance to raise your children. You can't get those times back. And so I don't want their whole childhood knowing that I was not here. Before me and Maria got married, when I was playing football still, Tristan, and this would really hit me hard where this came from. And I'm just sharing personal things if it's cool with you guys. I'm always trying to be transparent. But what woke me up was Tristan. He was probably living in Indianapolis. Tristan had to be 2 years old and younger. But Tristan got so used to me leaving because I had to. I was playing football. Me and Maria wasn't together at that time. And he got so used to me leaving that he literally thought I lived on an airplane. He's like, there goes daddy's house. And he literally thought like that he knew I was only going to be there for a short time. And so like when I would leave, you can't ask them, but when I would leave, he wouldn't talk to nobody for a day at all. And that bothered me, man. Like every time I was around him, even at that young age, he knew that I only had daddy around for a short time. And that really, really bothered me. As a man, it really, really bothered me because I was doing what I had to do to provide, to live my dream. And, it was my job. But I have to ask myself, what's most important here? What's most important here? And I didn't want to sacrifice being a father to my son for being successful to the world. And so, we made changes and, the rest is history. But that really bothered me, that my son thought I lived on an airplane. And he always knew I was going to leave, real soon. And I know that had an effect on him growing up. He was just 2 years old, though, but he understood that. And so I'm always reminding myself of what's important in life. And I know people sell y'all success and tell y'all, be successful and all this other stuff and all of that. But you got to realize there's sacrifice that comes with that. There's a downside of that comes with it. And you have to have a strong foundation as far as in your household to be able to deal with it. And I'm blessed enough to have that. I'm blessed enough to have the support, the understanding. But I don't even allow my wife or my children to say, Dad, you're traveling too much. You know what I'm saying? Like, first of all, I get it clear by them. But second of all, I stop it before the conversation even has to come up, because it's important to me to be there for my family. But I'm willing to make those sacrifices as far as like, nah, I don't want to travel every weekend. Nah, I'm good. Financially, will it better my life if I did it every single weekend? Yeah, it would be way better than where I'm at now. Way better. But I'm okay with where I'm at. You know what I'm saying? I'm okay with it. And like I said, my family is more valuable than anything the world could ever offer to me. So yeah, that's just me, man. Everybody don't think like that, nor should everybody think like that, but that's just me and how I operate my life and how I move in my life. I just wanted to share that because that is a problem in households today. But it still comes down to the root of understanding and communication and really putting yourself and really, that's my teeth? Nah. And really putting yourself in the other person's shoes as much as you can. And I think that's what makes a relationship beautiful, when you can put yourself in their shoes a lot. So like even this morning, my wife made dinner last night and she was tired, and there were dishes in the sink. And I don't know, this is just me. Like some people think, oh, that should be like your wife's job to wash the dishes. Like that's what women are supposed to do. But I look at us like a team. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, she made dinner, and I know this is like should be typical. Like you make dinner, I wash the dishes. If something is needed to be done around the house, I go do it. Like I don't wait for somebody to do it, or she goes to do it. Like, it's not like, oh, this is your job, this is my job. You do this, or I do that. Nah, it's like if something needs to be done, we're a team. We pick up the slack for each other. And I think the more you create like columns of like, you need to do this and you need to do that, I feel like you make the expectations larger. And when the expectations is larger and those expectations aren't met, I feel like that's what creates distance. And that's what creates like, you keep tabs. That's when you're like, well, I'm doing all this and like, you're not doing this. And so every time we come to that, because we are human, so of course we have our disagreements at times. Every time we come to that, we come back to, what are we doing? We teammates. All right. It's like, let's not point fingers. Let's not nitpick and say, I did this, so you should do that. Or you didn't do this, I did that. Let's just get it done. Let's just get it done and move on. Let's not let the small things become big things. And that's what happens in relationships, right? The small little things that really shouldn't matter start to matter and start to create distance. And when distance is created, that's when separation takes place. That's when people do things they shouldn't do, take their mind to places they shouldn't go to, and assumptions start to happen. And that's what we teach our kids too. Like with Tristan, it's like, bro, if you see something around the house, it's your job to pick it up, right? I don't care if it's mine, if it's yours, whatever. Let's just get it done. We all a team here. Teams work together. And I think when you have that mindset with your family that you all are a team and you work together, I think it makes the environment better. And a healthy environment in a household is what's needed today. And I feel like that's what's missing today. It's too many unhealthy environments in households, and it starts with the heads of the households. And when the heads of the households aren't right, then it filters down to the children, and then the children, live this life. They receive this cycle, this cycle of toxic environment. The cycle is dysfunction. And they start to operate like that. And that's how the cycle starts. I know the challenge was fear, but maybe people out here in relationships, and hopefully this can help somebody in their marriage or their family life or whatever it may be, have that conversation, man. Like sit down and say, like, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing? Why are we operating like opponents? Why are we keeping track of certain things, man? Like we teammates, we in this together. We in it together. The kids, we all a team, we in this together. Where do we want to go? Like, we trying to win championships. So where do we want to go? How can we keep more peace in this house? How can we keep more structure in this house if that's what it takes, And I think you set those goals, you have those conversations. And of course, you're going to have arguments, you're going to have disagreements. But when you have those disagreements, you got to remind yourself of this. We're teammates. We're teammates. Why are we trying to tear each other down with our words when we really don't mean it? We're teammates. Right? We should address the situation. We should fix the situation. We should move on from the situation. We're teammates, not opponents. And I think that's what's missing in relationships so much, is that we become so selfish and self-centered. And selfishness will not create togetherness in a relationship. And a relationship without the togetherness is no relationship, period. Just get back to that. Like, just get back to that, man. Like, you can get back to it. Like, relationships can be fixed. I know y'all hear a lot of my messages. A lot of people take to remove the toxic things from your life. I understand that part. Like, I get that. But every relationship is not meant to be quit on. Almost every relationship is meant to be worked on. Now, there's certain relationships in your life. I'm gonna say this. I don't have to explain it. That this is just not for you, right? It's just bad. But there's certain relationships that if you just worked on it, if you put in the work, which takes two people, you cannot work alone. I understand that's a problem in itself, that you're fighting alone. But when you fight together for it, instead of against each other, but when you fight together to reach something better, instead of against each other to tear each other apart, that's when relationships become beautiful, because you love that person. You care for that person. So why would you want to see it hurt them? Anytime I argue with my wife or we get into it, I sit there and be like, man, like why? Like, I love this girl. Why would I say that? Or why would I do that? Why? Like, that's not love. And I understand when you love somebody, you're passionate and things come out. But, it happens in relationships. It happens. But at the end of the day, like, you got to work together and realize that you're a team. And I'll say that to the day that I die. You are a team. You got to keep that mindset. And I know that I relate to it more because I've been in team atmospheres my whole life, especially with sports. But I realize what a team is and how a team can really separate things or really can bring together things. But you're working together, especially if you're married. You have become one. And so, I hope that inspires somebody in a relationship, man, because so many people be talking about, oh, you be ending relationships. No, I don't be ending relationships at all, man. If you know me, you follow me for real, you know that I want everybody to work their stuff out, especially if you love that person. But I don't want people to suffer. I don't want people to suffer. That's one thing that I have a soft spot for in my heart. I don't like seeing people suffer. I don't like seeing people thinking that their life isn't worth it anymore just because of a situation or a person in their life. And I don't like that. That kind of upsets me, honestly, like when I see people doing that, because, it's just not right. And I understand we all make mistakes, but when you're choosing to make somebody suffer over and over and over because you ain't got your stuff together, it's not good, man. You got to remember the reason why you got together, right? You got to remember the reason why it started, and you can always get back to that. I feel like it's always there. But just sometimes it's so much layers of like pain and like so many layers of confusion and so many layers of everything that goes around the core of why y'all got together. It's hard to remember that the core is still there. You know what I'm saying? Because if you're still in a relationship with that person, I think subconsciously it's because you know that, or even consciously, you know that you really love that person you really love them. But sometimes we don't even realize it. Like, why am I still here? Like, why am I? Because you really love that person. And that core is still there. But it's a whole bunch of layers that are around that core. And it takes a while to peel back those layers. It takes a lot of forgiveness. It takes a lot of understanding. It takes a lot of communication to peel back those layers. That's why I always say, in order for a relationship to work, you must work on it. Real relationships will work when you work on it. And it takes time. And unfortunately, we live in a society now with everything that people don't want to work at it. People, like, you got to work at it. Like, you got to work to keep that person. You got to work to please that person. You got to work to excite that person, everything. Like, keep that same energy. There's so much, even in that situation. Like, when you're in a relationship, don't let time dim the flame. Don't become boring. Don't stop doing what it took to get them. You know what I'm saying? It took to win them. Don't stop. Don't change who you are, because that's going to push someone away. Now, it doesn't mean that a person is right for walking away. But if you're not giving them what they need, just the essentials in a relationship of what they need, then you can't, I wouldn't say you can't be mad, because you can be mad, but understand, like, that's important in a relationship, to continue to excite, to continue to wow, to continue to appreciate all these things. Don't get comfortable. Don't get comfortable. Don't get boring. Don't do these things. It's like, y'all know my quote. You can't ignore it's like you can't ignore your plants or your flowers and expect a beautiful garden. And it's the same thing. You can't ignore your partner and expect a healthy relationship. It works like that. And some of us, we get so into a routine, and we become someone different than the person they fell in love with. Right? And you have to understand, that's when distance is created. It doesn't make a person right for doing anything they shouldn't do. It doesn't make it right. But you cannot push somebody away and expect them not to walk away, and expect them not to lose a connection. So that's why I said you have to keep it fresh. You have to keep it fun. You got to keep it exciting. You know what I'm saying? You can't get in routines. And those are conversations that you got to have. You know what I'm saying? Like, all of that support, the obvious stuff, all of those things, man, in marriage, you have to keep those things fresh and exciting and fun. Because that's what I see. Like, I don't want to be the old couple that's like just living together. That's nothing to look forward to. For real. That's why a lot of people don't get married. Like, it's nothing to look forward to be the old couple just existing together. But I've seen old couples that are on fire, like, for real, like on fire. And I'm just like, that's what I want. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want that. Like, when I'm 60, yup. You know what I'm saying? When I'm 60, yup. So all of that, 70, hopefully, yup. It's having fun. You know what I'm saying? Having fun. And so you got to keep that alive, man. You got to keep that alive. Find new ways to excite, do all of those things. Never stop dating, never stop appreciating, support them. You should be their biggest supporter. You ain't got to be vocal about it. Just be their biggest supporter behind the scenes. And support comes in different forms. And so those are all the things I feel like that can help a relationship, man. I think marriage is beautiful. Relationships are awesome. I just think we live in a society that goes against that narrative. You know what I'm saying? I think we were created to be with another person. I don't think we were created to be alone our whole entire lives. I don't really think that. But, so many times we always get the negative. We see so much negative that it puts fear in us. I wrapped it around. I'm going to end with this, right? We see so much negative in relationships. It puts fear in us that we don't want to go pursue that, because we feel like the end of that is boring. We feel like the end of that is divorce. The end of that is unhappiness, right? And so we choose to be alone. We put a gate around our heart, and we prevent anything from entering our heart. And you should be careful before it enters into your heart. You should treat your heart like you treat your house. But at the end of the day, man, we allow that fear to control our lives. And as we talked about today, don't create a negative result from a situation you haven't experienced yet. All right. Your experiences are different. And also, if you have experienced that before, a new situation is always a new experience. Let's get it.